Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. It is our first Bright Spot video for the month of May in 2023, which is crazy and exciting all at the same time. May is my birthday month, so I have to love May, right? There's lots of wonderful things happening in May. We've got sunshine coming out depending on where you live. We've got warmer weather, people getting outside, and it's just a really wonderful time of year. So hopefully you're feeling that wonderful spring feeling in the air wherever it is that you live. If you're watching this video on YouTube for the first time, or if you've recently joined my group, just a quick introduction. My name is Taryn Hewitt. I am a work-life balance coach. I am also the organizer of the Facebook group Work-Life Balance for Overachievers. And it's in that group and also here on YouTube that we do these Bright Spot videos every Monday, with the goal of making Monday a bright spot in your week. We use these videos to provide actionable tips and strategies that you can apply to your life right away so that this week can be better than last week, and all of us can continue working towards the big goals that we have and the life changes that we want, which for the majority of people who are listening or watching this video is better work-life balance, achieving bigger things, right? If you're an overachiever and you're part of this group, you probably have really big goals. You might have side hustles that you're working on, or businesses that you're working on in addition to your regular job. You might be going to school in addition to a regular job, right? You're just doing more. And these videos are about helping you create more time for yourself so that you can do all of those amazing things, not burn out, and still have time for everything else that you love, right? Awesome. So today's topic is about living with intention, right? So this is something, it's talked about a lot, but I wanted to just pause on it a little bit in today's session because it's something that comes up a lot in the group, right? When we do events or in other videos. I think even last week's video, right? We were talking about how to really take advantage of self-development books. And one of the things that I said was start with an intention, right? Like intentional living is a really key factor to getting from where you currently are to wherever it is that you want to be. And so it's worth just taking a second to dive into it, explore what it really means, and just kind of refresh for yourself, right? You might think that you already know this. You might already believe that you're living with intention, and maybe you already are. So that's fantastic if you are, but it's just good to refresh on some of the basics sometimes. And so what we're going to talk about today is what it means to live with intention, the difference between intention and purpose, because I do think they get mixed up a little bit sometimes. And then, of course, we'll talk about some actual strategies for how to live a little bit more intentionally in your everyday life. Okay. So first off, let's just talk for a second about what it means to actually live with intention. So to me, what it means is making conscious decisions and purposeful choices that support the life you want or a goal that you're working towards. Now, we all have, well, I imagine all of us do. Maybe there's some lucky person out there who's never had this experience, but I believe we all have probably had times in our lives where you kind of like sit up, start paying attention, and then kind of wonder how it is that you actually got there. I'll just say one thing that comes to mind for me was I've been married before. I'm on my second marriage, and I would say at the end of my first marriage, I was like, what the hell did I do? Right? Like, so it's just a very honest answer, right? Like I disregarded in that relationship a lot of things that were really important to me, and a lot of things that if I had been living intentionally and making intentional choices, I would have done differently. Now, I am also a big believer in things happen for a reason. so to a degree, I feel like I had to go through that experience to get a lot of the really wonderful things that I have now. But still, ultimately, all of us are looking for the shortest path to the life that we want, the goals that we have. right? And so intentional living is ultimately about that idea. So the analogy that I like to use about what it means to live with intention is actually car based, right? So if you think about what I just said about that example of kind of waking up and then wondering how it is that you got somewhere, I kind of think of it like that experience of being on autopilot when you're driving, right? So I think all of us have also had that experience where you get in your car and you reach, your destination or a destination, and then you kind of stop and think for a second and go, wait a second, how did I actually get here? Like, you did stop at stoplights and you did obviously make turns into different streets and hopefully followed all the rules of the road, right? But you may not actually remember what you did or the actual lights that you stopped at or any of those specific details because you were on autopilot. And so when you're not living with intention, that's what's kind of happening, right? You're on autopilot, you're making decisions, but you're making decisions without a specific goal in mind or without the end in mind, right? And so it just becomes a different process, and a lot of kind of pre-built tendencies in our brains are going to take over and kind of steer you in a direction that may not be the direction that you want. So when we talk then about the difference between intention and purpose, what does that mean, right? So those two words, intention and purpose, are two things that you're going to hear used often at the same time. In fact, purposeful decision making was part of my own definition of intention, right? Now, I will say I have a specific purpose definition that I really love, which is, to me, purpose is kind of that perfect intersection between what you love, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, and then what you're good at, right? So that could be a little bit different for other people. For some people, it may not have that paid for piece. I think that purpose definition is going to be a little bit different for each person. But what I really want to highlight here is there are a lot of similarities, right? That's why you often hear purpose and intention used at a lot of times at the same time or in the same space. And that's because both of them require a high level of awareness, right? You have to know you have to be aware of what it is that you're aiming for. You have to be aware of the decisions that you're making, the actions you're taking, the impact that those decisions and actions have on the results that you're getting. So there is a very high level awareness needed to live with intention and also to live with purpose. Also, clearly, both of them require a clear connection to what you want, what you're good at, right? Both of those require that to be present in order for you to live with intention or live with purpose. That being said, to me, when I think about the difference between these two, intention is, to me, more about what you're doing, right? It's the actual decisions you're making, the actual actions that you're taking, the that what factor. And then purpose, in my view, is how you're doing it, right? So if we use the car analogy again and we just follow that through, there is more than one way to reach a destination, right? You just to follow it through, you could take the most direct route, you could take the scenic view, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to reach the same place. And so if you think about that, I mentioned that purposeful choices or purposeful decision making is in my own definition of intention, and that's because it drives how connected you are to the journey and what you want that journey to actually look like. So let's just say, for example, that somebody really wants, excuse me, excuse me, somebody wants to obtain financial security, right? That's a really common goal, and it's a worthy goal to have. But you could, pursue financial security by exploring a career or a job of some kind that you have really no connection to. that, you could care less about, but it'll make you lots of money, right? That's completely possible. And for some people, that is the right choice, right? Depending on the other factors that are in there, that could be a really strong decision to obtain that financial security. And so that's living with intention. Now, living with purpose might mean that for you, for somebody else, they need that job to not only provide them financial security, but they need that job to have a purpose. They need it to mean something different. They need to have a why for working in that role, right? So again, that's just a different spin on it, right? Both of them will reach the same destination of financial security, but they're going to feel a little bit different. And it's up to each person just to decide where that effort goes and where that purpose comes into the different decisions that they're making, right? So then the last thing that we're going to cover is how to actually start living intentionally, right? So now you kind of understand some of the basics of it. You understand how it might apply to life in general. And hopefully this is also helping you think about some of those other instances where we do talk about bringing intention in. So again, last week we talked about the self-development books. And I said, start before you start reading, set yourself an intention. So let's just say that you're sitting down to, read a book about stress management, right? If you are setting that intention of, I want to be able to, I don't know, find a better way to manage my stress on a daily basis, right? Like that's a strong intention that you're setting at the beginning. And then what you're going to do is notice yourself making different decisions with the action that's in the book, the tips that they're giving, all of the things that the ways that you interact with that book are going to be driven by that intention that you're trying to achieve, right? And so that's kind of a micro version of what we're talking about here. So we talk about how to actually start living intentionally. The very first step of that is being really clear about what it is that you want. So I'm going to pause here for a second because I think there's an important distinction to make here. So being clear about what you want in my experience with intentional living is really focused on the outcomes that you're looking for, but also kind of rooted in not so much of how you will, how those outcomes will occur, but just what the outcomes are. So let's say, let's just go back to the financial security example, right? Financial security could be the goal that you're making, or the goal that you have. That's clearly what you want. And so then you start making intentional decisions to help achieve that financial security. Being clear about what you want is not necessarily, I will achieve a job working on the stock market to achieve financial security, right? It's not your business really, like what the how is that's going to get you there. Again, intentional living is about the what. So what is it that you're looking for? You're looking for financial security. The how you will achieve financial security comes with the rest of the journey, right? So that's something that will come with time as you're presented with new information, as you go about your life, and new opportunities present themselves, new decisions present themselves. It's your job to stay that course and stay with the intention that you originally set. So being clear about what you want, that's the very first step. The next thing that I'm going to say is understand what it is that you value most. And the thing I'm going to emphasize here is that it's important to really spend time understanding what your true values are when you're living intentionally. Because again, that even if we stick with that financial security example, right? If financial security is an actual value, And so a lot of people will put that in their list of values, but if you are not clear on what your values are, your intentional decision making is always going to be a little bit flawed. So financial security might be what you were told should be a value when you were growing up, but maybe that's not actually important to you, or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe you grew up, or you have consistently been surrounded with messages saying that money shouldn't matter, right? Like that's a message that we hear very regularly in our society. Maybe that's been the thing that you've heard. And so the idea of wanting to have financial security feels icky, or it feels gross, like because that's what you've been trained to think. So this is about getting really clear and like trying to cut through the noise of everything that you were raised with, or everything that society has told you, or everything that you should, or you believe you should be worried about, and getting right to the quick of what it is that you actually value. Now, the reason that we say get very clear about that is because then you're going to use those values to drive your decisions. So again, if we use the car analogy, what we're talking about is you've now set a destination. You're using your values to drive what that journey to that destination actually looks like, right? Okay, so the fourth thing that I'm going to say when you're living intentionally is to pay attention to the trends that you experience that could influence your decisions. So what I mean by that, these could be trends in thoughts. This could be trends in results. But oftentimes the trends that you experience in your life are giving you, or could be giving you, some kind of message, or it could be, the universe, your brain, however you want to say it, sending you some kind of message. So let's just say, for example, that we stick with that financial security model. You are like, nope, financial security, that's the thing that I'm looking, that's the intention, that's what I'm going for, and it's a value. Good. If you keep noticing a trend in your thoughts that this is bad, this is no good, you should feel guilty, who do you think you are for wanting financial security, right? Like those trends and thoughts just indicate that there might be some mindset work that you need in order to stay the course, right? Like you might need to do some mindset work on how to cut through the noise of those values, or whatever it is that's getting in the way. The other thing I would say, as I mentioned, trends and results. And again, like sometimes if you're seeing trends in results, like maybe you're not getting the results that you want, and you believe that you're setting the right intention, and you believe that you are making all of the right choices, but you're not getting the results that you want, it's an opportunity to kind of sit back and explore if those decisions that you've been making really do truly align with your intention. And so I'm kind of pausing as I say that, because I want you to kind of sit with that and really think about it. So maybe an example, I'm trying to think of a good example, but a lot of times our brains get in the way of what it is that we're trying to achieve. And our brains are really fantastic at justifying and rationalizing and doing all sorts of crazy things to mess with us. And so it is very possible for you to believe that you are making all of the right decisions, and all of the decisions that align with the intention that you're following. And you genuinely could not be, right? Like your brain could be rationalizing away steps that you could have been taking, or things that would push you outside of your comfort zone, because it's just really good at it. And that's why, I mean, honestly, it's things like that, which is why coaches like me exist, right? Because it's really, really hard to read the label of the jar when you're inside the jar. It's really hard for each of us to see where our brains are getting in our way when it comes to things that are really big and really important to us. So that being said, the last thing that I'm going to say for how you can really start living intentionally is just to continuously evaluate and adjust everything that we talked about before that. So the being clear about what you want, understanding your values, using those values to drive your decisions, and then paying attention to those trends. That last step is to continuously evaluate all of those and adjust. So why do I say that? Well, I mean, one is everything that we just talked about, that our brains get in our way. So if we're not actually taking the time to evaluate the results that we're getting or how things are going, it's very easy to get stuck in those brain traps without even really realizing it until you've been going down the path for a really long time. The other thing I would say is that your values are going to change over time. So what you value now might be different from what you value 10 years from now, 20 years from now. If if life circumstances change, maybe you have kids or you have kids now and they, move out or you retire or whatever the case is, right? Like life changes have a tendency to then also change what's most important to us and what it is that we're ultimately trying to achieve, which is ultimately the intention, right? So you have to spend time reevaluating this and really rethinking things on a regular basis in order to continue living with intention. So all of that being said, I really hope that this helped. It was a little bit of a deep dive into a topic that, again, is talked about a lot, but we don't always like deep dive on it. So I hope that you found that really, really helpful as a refresher, or if you haven't really spent time actually playing with intention, I hope that that gave you some good ideas. As always, if you have questions about this video or you're trying to figure out how to live a little bit more intentionally and you're a little bit stuck on it, you are always welcome to email me at Taryn@happythoughtscoaching.com. You can drop comments in the comments here on YouTube or within Work-Life Balance for Overachievers. And what I would just say is I am going to close before I go to that last bit. I'm going to close with a couple of quick announcements for everybody who is watching this on YouTube and may not be a part of Work-Life Balance for Overachievers yet. So one thing is, last week I mentioned that we talked about self-development books and how to truly take advantage of them. And so one really exciting thing is that we're actually going to start a self-development book club within Work-Life Balance for Overachievers. So once a quarter, we're going to pick a book, give plenty of time for everyone to read it, and then we'll meet once a month and talk about, once a quarter about that book, to give everybody an opportunity to really explore the content of it and how they can apply it to their lives. So if that is something that sounds interesting to you, it is a good time to join Work-Life Balance for Overachievers on Facebook if you haven't already done so. So you can just go in there, go under the group search. I'll also drop a link in the YouTube channel so that it's really easy to find that way. But we're going to be announcing the first book soon, so that is right around the corner. And then the second thing is that in that group, we also just announced a time management challenge that is going to be coming at the end of May. So it's the week of May 22nd to May 26th. And this is something that I'm really excited about because I feel like time management is one of those key contributors to work-life balance in general. And so what we're really going to be focusing on during this challenge is how to identify and eliminate time-wasting behaviors, how to boost productivity connected to those behaviors, and then how to maintain momentum after the challenge ends. So it's going to be 1 week long with different videos and different guides provided to you throughout, and something that you can essentially do in your own time, but in alignment with the challenge itself. Because that's where all the fun is going to happen, right? If you're doing it with everyone else, that's what makes it a challenge and exciting and fun, right? So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, again, just click that link that we're going to put in the video notes for this video to join the group Work-Life Balance for Overachievers on Facebook. Eventually, this is going to be a challenge that I plan to offer as a paid challenge, but right now, because it's the first time that I'm offering it, it's going to be free to any members of my group. Makes this a really great time to be joining that group and seeing that challenge, these videos, and other great tips that I'm providing throughout the week. So hopefully I see you there. In the meantime, I hope everyone has a wonderful week. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like it, comment under it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That really helps me out, and it really helps make it easier for me to reach other wonderful people who are also trying to achieve their own work-life balance. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.